The destiny of a woman who chooses to live alone. Are they happier or not? I can honestly say one of the happiest times of my life was when I was a single adult woman living alone. I got to a point where I felt I was really thriving. And this was literally after I went through a heartbreaking second divorce and life was then falling apart. Let me explain. Hi, I am Teresa, and my channel here on YouTube is Empower the Dream. I make videos for women who seek to live their best life, and I have many ways I can support you. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new here now, please subscribe so we can be YouTube friends. Today's topic is meant to be empowering, educational, and even motivational. Okay, so are women who live alone happier? I'm not sure I know the exact answer, and then of course there are so many variables, but I do know of 5 benefits that I experienced. Well, actually more than 5, but I want to share 5 with you in this video. And these are some things that may not be recognized at first, but can be greatly empowering to you and to your life. So this is for any woman who is possibly getting a divorce or going through a separation, or for some reason have some type of lifestyle change, or maybe contemplating living alone, or maybe if you already are, you can even share some benefits in the comments below too. Okay, let's proceed. So empowering benefit number 1 is to ditch the social norm and get comfortable being with you. Right, the idea that women need constant companionship to thrive is simply a belief our society installs upon us, and it's just not true. I mean, as a single woman, have you ever been asked, don't you get lonely? Or when are you going to settle down? Are these really questions or judgments or limiting beliefs? These types of questions or statements could be keeping you from your greatest potential. When I found myself living alone after divorce number 2, and I will readily admit that I was not feeling elated or happy or successful at that time by any means. I actually started out being very sad and devastated over the whole experience. And yet not that long afterwards, things began to change. I discovered that when you step into a space that is completely your own, something extraordinary begins to happen. My emotional side and my anxiety began to quiet down. Instead of feeling chaotic and stressed out all the time, I became more connected to me and to my intuition. What I discovered is the stress hormone, which is cortisol, it can decrease significantly over a short amount of time, even a couple of months, by 30 or 40%, when you put peace into your environment and start practicing care for yourself. Empowering benefit number 2, changing the way your brain supports you and builds trust. At some point during my early living alone time and becoming more peaceful, I heard of Joe Dispenza. He talks about how our brain creates neural pathways in regards to how we think and our programming and the way we do things on a regular basis. And when we make big changes in our life, we can start beginning to make new neural pathways in our brain. Those habits that we had are then forced to change. We can then impact our previous conditioning, even the chemistry in our body, in a new way, with new habits and new neural pathways. Much of this is stored in the prefrontal cortex of our brain, and it can lead to more creative thinking, decision making, and happiness, and so much more. It is so interesting how we can even unintentionally change the way our brain will respond and then tell our body how to show up for ourselves. Now, if you're living alone, you are not just living independently, you are literally building and rebuilding yourself internally, becoming more independent, creating beautiful feedback loop within yourself, and allowing new positive ways to show up. This is how your brain starts to change and creates those new neural pathways. And that contributes to so many other things too, like trusting yourself. This happens every time you solve a problem on your own or decide to do something without consulting another. I remember at times thinking how I was starting to feel more and more confident, and it was because I was building a basket full of wins on the things that I did overcome. So when another challenge arose, I was less and less worried about being able to handle it. I knew I could because I had previously. And just to expand on that a little bit more about the self-trust benefit, this trust in yourself even opens your heart more, which in turn expands the loving energy within your heart to exude out into your environment, to your home, and all around you. It's those invisible vibes that you carry because you're building trust and more awareness and more knowing of yourself. You feel more harmonious, and in response, you receive more of the same back to you. It's like the vibrational energy of who we are. We get what we are. Now, like I mentioned in my case, I wasn't feeling all that great at first about living alone. And I'm not condoning it one way or another. We are all different. We look different. We have, come from different lifestyles and different cultures, but we are very similar within. And my point with all this is to give you hope, support, and to share with you some wonderful aspects that are not always communicated in social norms. Okay, let's move on. Empowering benefit number 3 is a validation withdrawal or a validation upgrade. Here's what I mean. When you first start living alone, you might experience a validation withdrawal or feeling anxious or uncertain. Oftentimes we find ourselves needing validation from others, or we have a strong desire to constantly seek approval, affirmation, or acknowledgement from others to feel good about ourselves. And often this leads to low self-esteem and a reliance on external validation to feel worthy or accepted, essentially basing our self-worth on how others perceive us. Now, as you can imagine, this does happen a lot in relationships. This is not a weakness. It's our biology trying to maintain that old program, the old neural pathways of dependency. So if you find yourself craving this when you first begin to live alone, it makes sense. It's understandable. But if you stay conscious and aware during this process, you are reshaping your brain's awareness, your brain's remembrance of who you really are, and creating new neural pathways, right? Remember, you're creating those new ones. And because you are possibly shifting from survival mode, that stress mode, that cortisone stress hormone is acting up, you're shifting from that, creating a new, safer place for yourself where you feel more comfortable and you're in a new, peaceful state. Your body then will start to produce different hormones, the feel-good hormones like serotonin or oxytocin. The beautiful thing about this is you are producing these hormones not because someone else made you feel good, but because you choose to feel good on your own, your validation upgrade to yourself. So you could go through a validation withdrawal from them to a validation upgrade that you created within yourself with this trust and new independence. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with producing these hormones due to relationship bliss either, the oxytocin and the serotonin. I mean, I've experienced them in both ways, and because I am married now, I feel much of this with my spouse. However, I still love my alone time. We can definitely have it both ways. Women who break free from the need for constant validation experience not just the increase in happy hormones potentially, but also in turn upgrades her emotional well-being. Empowering benefit number 4 is emotional well-being. Did you know that your emotional state greatly impacts your immune system too, which is also in turn part of your sleep and your vitality? Why does this happen? Because you are no longer burning precious resources trying to maintain relationships that do not serve their highest good. Make sense? Please never stay in a relationship if it is harming your emotional state in any way, romantically, friendship, family, or otherwise. So you can see this journey of living alone can be empowering in so many ways, and how each of these ways can impact each other. Amazing benefits to self-healing, growth, and personal evolution. And it is a proven fact that every time you choose to trust your own judgment or enjoy your own company, you are building and strengthening your immune system and producing positive brainwaves and emotional well-being. Empowering benefit number 5, spiritual awakening. During this time of after my second divorce, or as my second divorce was happening and I was living alone, was also the time when I had my spiritual awakening. I felt that contributed to my experience in a positive way. I am not sure if it would have happened the way it did had I still been in the relationship. And although I felt like I left the marriage while we were still newlyweds or in the honeymoon stage, I believe now it was the best thing for me in so many ways. When I started to reflect on the marriage and the past, to learn about what happened and how it happened and how I could evolve myself or practice forgiveness, is when I felt this spiritual awakening come upon. So during the time when living alone for a few years, I expanded my spiritual awareness, becoming quite involved in the law of spirituality, consistently and eagerly continue on a path of personal development, self-care, and learning of the universal mechanics. It all led to me starting my own business, becoming a life and relationship coach, hosting retreats for women, and mentoring young women and children. When I grew myself from within, I grew into my purpose. And the truth is, when you practice loving yourself without external validation, your level of self-worth literally begins to mend and tend to you in such a beautiful way. I have a few videos on self-worth and self-love too that I can link at the end of this. I'll put it in the description as well. I also want to point out, every time you choose to appreciate yourself, you are changing your genetic expression, activating genes for stress reduction and cellular repair, while deactivating genes associated with inflammation and aging. Now, that's a big wow, right? Furthermore, when you live alone, you can become your own life architect, especially through practices like meditation, where you are able to up-level yourself and manifest your life exactly as you want by raising your vibrational frequency and understanding the quantum laws of the universe. You can become a manifesting magician, and I'll also link some videos about that in the description. And of course, you can do any of this spiritual upgrade any time of your life, living alone or not. However, it can be possibly easier if you're alone or have time to yourself, depending on your relationship and the dynamics of the person that you may be with. But it's definitely a beautiful practice, and to give it time is definitely very helpful. Now, I think it's also important for me to mention that there is one possibly little detrimental side for women to live alone for a great length of time, and this is depending on her awareness of it. And even if she then chooses to re-enter into a relationship. Now, this doesn't just pertain to being alone, but the point of this video is about living alone. When a woman does take on the majority of herself in masculine energy, which happens when she's living alone because she's taking care of everything herself, has to be in charge of so much, and it just can put the feminine energy, the receiving energy, to the wayside. So this is just something to be aware of. And when a woman shows up in possibly a new relationship, more in the masculine energy, it doesn't create that attraction polarity. It's the same energy. So this is something that I helped many women on in relationships after living alone for a time. She wants to then try to re-embrace and let her feminine side come more to the forefront. Okay, I also want to clarify. When I speak of living alone, I do not mean as in being isolated. If you're recently separated from your partner, you may feel that you want to be isolated at first or not. I think it can be normal healing, and that's okay. But I'm making a point here of just creating connections. It's always good. Having friendships and family or whatever it is you need. When women build relationships from their whole self, whole woman growth of who she is then better with others too. When she takes the time to heal and take herself, she then attracts more whole people into her life. I encourage you to embrace your own power, darling, as you step into or continue or contemplate this elevated state of independence. Remember that you are not just changing your own inner world and possibly up-leveling every cell in your body and energy of your home, but in your whole entire reality. You are also inspiring others too, and that's a good thing, to allow yourself to be in this position, and not only is it okay, but let it help you and serve you, and then you can serve out into the world. And even if you choose not to live alone the rest of your life, of course that's okay. And if you do, of course that's okay. You're learning and experiencing new things the entire way, and that's what it's all about. Whether it be for a reason or a season, you can make it all work for your benefit and for your personal growth in spirituality and every way possible for you. Remember, darling, you are the creator of your future, the architect of your reality, and living proof that true happiness comes from within. Step into this power and become the energy that changes everything. I hope you received some value from this talk. I would love to hear from you, your experiences, your insights. Please share in the comments, and I look forward to meeting you here again real soon. Namaste from Teresa at Empower the Dream.